Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious. As you see, it's going to be a special program with our friend, renowned around the world artist, Chris Calle. How are you,
I'm
Chris?
good. How are you, Mark? Always great
Good.
to see you.
Always great to see you. Where'd you you came in today? My co-producer and friend for 1,052 episodes.
Wow,
This
that's
is
a
number
lot.
today.
That's a lot.
Is Marty Winkle. Hey, Marty, how are you?
I'm good, Mark. How are you doing?
Good. I hear you picked the Calle family up at the Orlando airport there. How long did it take you to clean your car?
Well, it didn't take me long. Didn't take long to clean it, but somebody had to do it.
Yeah, somebody had to
Marty,
do
do
it.
I have to say why I had to wait in the car for you?
Huh?
It's not- Okay. I got stories too.
Well, looking forward to meeting your wife Jackie and your daughter Ariana,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're here with you on the Space Coast. What's the occasion? Why is our museum being graced with your
I'm
presence?
surprised you aren't aware. This is the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation Space Rendezvous Hall of Fame weekend.
Oh my! Well, I'm glad I got a
And a
little
poss-
prepared for it.
And a possible Boeing launch.
A possible Boeing crude launch
Crude
with
launch,
Sonny
yes.
Williams and
Yeah.
Butch Wilmer, who I say will both be in that Hall of Fame one day.
Sure. What's the talk right now about whether it's going to go off or not?
Well, it's a 12:32 Saturday, and 11 o'clock, as you know, is the festivities begin for the Hall of Fame with our good friend John Zarell, the MC, and ducked in Marcia Ivins and David Hilmer. We'll show you some pictures of that here in a minute. But some of the rumor mill going around the museum is they may push the ceremony back to before the big dinner or even Sunday.
Mm.
So just have to see. They better let people know because the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation, does a great job, but people spent some pretty good money to go to the doggone thing.
Sure, but they've got all those astronauts, and I'm sure all those astronauts and all the attendees want to see the launch as well. So
How many astronauts you think attend this?
the ASF event?
Yeah, this
or-
event this weekend.
Oh,
This is
wow.
the largest
It
gathering
seems
of
like it's-
astronauts.
Do you know
Probably.
the number? Or you
I'd
get
say
any
around
guess?
50.
Yeah, I was going to say about 52.
I'd say something
Yeah.
like 50 in there. And
I was on the website. I saw the list. It's a lot of people.
if you're local, just go down to the Cocoa Beach Hilton and sit in the lobby and buy you an adult beverage and watch your stars astronauts walk
There you
by.
go.
It's kind of fun to do that I did last year, helping you with it. Very
Yes.
privileged to
Thank you.
and we're very privileged at the American Space Museum to be known by the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. We're going to talk a little bit about them and their wonderful leader Caroline Shoemaker, who did a program May 8th on Stay Curious. You can see that among the almost 600 episodes that we have on YouTube. The other 500 are on Facebook before we legitimize YouTube with 1,000
Can you
followers.
merge the other ones over, or no? Is that not possible?
Well, that's our IT guy, Bruce Jacobs. He'll handle that. But we have access to all of them. But of course, we started out with my cell phone, and then we decided we'd get a camera gear and hook up a computer. We were in the back room. And then really we met you through the Mark and Tom Usiak in there. And we are so grateful to the people that started watching our program and have brought us quality people. Like Mitch Rothman here is sitting in our studio. Hi, Mitch. He's an influencer, has a wonderful Facebook page called NASA Man Space. And you'll want to check that out. And you're going to hear more about Mitch as he and I are finally connecting after a couple years. The time's right. And you kind of have stirred that swizzle stick for
I'm
Mitch and I, and we appreciate
Happy
that.
to put people together with shared interests.
And with our museum, it's all about putting people together that can really financially help us somewhere down the line. We're a nonprofit, and every nonprofit, though they don't want to say it, needs money. We need bushel baskets full of $100 bills every week. And here's how you can help us in a small way: is become an individual member for $25, a family member for $45, supporting for $100. Even if you don't come to the museum that year for that $100, you're helping us tremendously. You're helping us support the artwork of you by talking about it on our program. If you like Stay Curious and don't want it to go away, we are on a serious fund drive here as we've lost some of our normal grants and so forth just through the attrition of the government politics of Florida and blah, blah, blah that goes on. So, but here's how to help us, and you all are, so we appreciate that. There's your pretty face up there. And
Open mic with Chris Calle.
open
I
mic
like
with
that.
Chris. That's right. If you got some questions, chime them in. I'm going to try to read them on my smartphone here. Didn't bring my smart tablet with me. But yes, Chris is a U.S. postage stamp designer.
Yeah.
We're going to see a few, and one day we'll have a program that might be not much space, but a lot about. Tell us a little bit about your postage stamps.
Sure. The first postage stamp I designed was the Harry Truman stamp in 1984, a year after I graduated college, and I think I came along at a good time with the USPS. The art directors were looking in a different direction. I had this pencil technique similar to my father's pencil technique, and it was very conducive for the engravers. Those back then, the stamps they would start out with a line drawing or a pencil drawing, and then the engraver would interpret it in his medium.
Mm-hmm.
And my father's style and my style were very conducive to that. They could follow our drawings followed the directional lines of someone's face, and it was very easy for the engravers, from what we were told, to follow that. And so I did a whole series in the Great American. It was called the Great American Series. That started out with Harry Truman. I designed, who else? Dr. Paul Dudley White, Hap Arnold, World War II General Hap Arnold, Belva Lockwood. There are a lot of them.
I know your dad, one that sticks in my head, is Robert Frost, right?
Sure, that was his favorite.
Really?
His absolute favorite.
It's just lines of drawn.
Yep. Beautiful drawing.
So, but it looks so much like him, and
except that his earliest renditions or his earliest sketches had a portrait of Frost, but they also some had like a stone wall, but others had like a tree in winter, so it's silhouette with an orange ball for the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And he used that as a sketch in many different postage stamp sketch designs. They never accepted for the Robert Frost. They just went to a straight portrait, beautifully engraved. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I designed the Connecticut statehood stamp that we got that orange ball in, because I did a drawing of the Charles Morgan ship at Mystic Seaport, and I put a little orange ball in there, and it passed the art directors, and they went with it. So.
Well, you're going to put some of that together for us one day and do a program on that, because I find that art is art, and that's why we call it STEAM education. The A is for art, and your dad had a part of putting that A in STEAM. Sure. But people that argue about STEAM, heck, the A can be astronomy, aeronautics. How about astrobiology? How about aerospace engineering? I mean, it's all kinds of things. But we actually had a board member that objected. They wanted to be STEM, not STEAM. So
it makes no sense.
What are we looking at behind here? This is a new work of art. We're just seeing part of this beautiful canvas.
So for the past 4 years, the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation has asked me to do kind of a signature piece for Hall of Fame Space Rendezvous weekend. Last year, they celebrated Skylab. The year before that, Shuttle. And it's one of my montage pieces where I kind of combine painting and drawing and photo and put things in Photoshop and mix things around and then paint on top and draw on top. And this year they wanted to focus on it's the 40th anniversary of the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. And they wanted not to focus so much, but to incorporate in my montage. They wanted me to incorporate the 7 presidents who have been presidents of the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. So Alan Shepard.
Well, let's talk about that when I show the whole thing for him there.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
To interrupt you there, because we're just looking at part of it there,
Yeah, sure.
and everyone's going to be fascinated. Marty's got a comment already on our YouTube channel.
Mark, Carlton Bailey sent us a list of expected astronauts. You want to hear the list?
Sure.
Okay, it's Bob Crippen, Dick Covey, Frank Culberson, Norm Thagard, Bonnie Dunbar, Kurt Brown, Brewster Shore, Charlie Bolden, Tom Jones, Hoot Gibson, Franklin Chang Diaz, Eileen Collins, George Pinky Nelson, Bill Shepard, John Grunsfield, Jim Belushi, Kathy Thornton, Scott Altman, Ray Seddon, Robert Cabana, and Chris Ferguson.
Okay, that's
Quite the
about
group.
good 2025 there. Thank you, Carlton Bailey, rocket photographer. For those of you who are just joining us for the first time, maybe you're an artist and you're curious about space art. Here's one of the guys that can tell you about it. But it's evolved over his career over the years. As I look at your body of work and your father's, I'm sorry we really can't talk about you without your father, and I know you like it that
I
way.
have no problem with that.
Yeah, and you're going to learn about the legacy of Paul Calle here in just a little bit. This is one work of your shuttle. This is not the one. This is one from a couple years ago.
From 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Yep.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And-
And each one of these, you can see, I incorporate the Mercury 7. That's what I've incorporated. There's two things I've incorporated in each one of these montages is Mercury 7, and there's somewhere hidden like a little Easter egg is my father's thumbprint, because his logo on his stationery was his thumbprint.
I remember
And so
that.
in each one of these, somewhere, sometimes hidden, sometimes more up front, is his thumbprint. It's just kind of my way of my nod to my dad.
Uh-huh. Well, you do a great job. One of my critiques might be that there's just too much blue and sometimes a lot of gold in it. So I think you need to add some more red to your artwork there. And I think Dave Stange disagrees with me there. But yes, you're a Wolverine,
I am
correct?
a Wolverine. Go blue.
Go blue, and they're the national champions, I
They're the
understand.
national champions.
Yeah, well, that's good. So you don't have a coach that knows how to be a national champ anymore. So good luck.
No, the coach is the
Good luck
national
in
champ.
Columbus
Is
on
the
November 27th
Yes,
next
yes,
year.
yes. That's a lot of talk. Ohio State fans have been saying that for the past 3 years. I understand.
Yeah, we have. We've
Keep
been in a
living the
little
dream.
rut there, but anyway, great program. We're going to talk some about the colleges that are involved with the Scholarship Foundation
Okay.
and both of our alma maters, Ohio
Actually,
State.
I believe
and-
one of the scholars who's here this weekend is from University of Michigan.
Oh, is that right?
think so.
Well, you'll be sucking up to him or her, I'm sure, up there, or they should be up to you. But anyway, we wanted to also throw out there that we are having a space memorabilia show Saturday, July 27th at the Beachside Hotel and Suites in Cocoa Beach, right there beside Ron John's. They've been very good to our museum. So if you're local and want to reserve a table, get a hold of me. We'll be talking about that. But this is another fundraising situation for us, as well as things are really coming together thanks to Chris helping.
Thank you.
Shuttle Fest 4, the Hubble Space Telescope at age 35 is a big go. Chris is instrumental in pushing this to a 2-day event because his ears are out there, and the 100 people that came to Shuttle Fest 4 or 3, which was about astronomy missions. They wanted more. They wanted that you're here on
Sure.
a Saturday. Why not wake up Sunday?
Absolutely. It's not a matter of pushing it to 2 days. It's just a logical conclusion. I mean, it just makes complete sense. People, I mean, there's a lot of local people coming, people coming from an hour, 2, 3 hours, who can come for the day. But Cliff came from Australia.
Yeah, we had another guy come from
John
Europe.
Swingler came from Brazil.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, it's like Space Fest that used to happen in Arizona. People are going to see this as a destination, and to expand it for 2 days, then it makes it easy for someone to come from out of town, and make it a 4-day weekend. Friday we could do something at Kennedy Space Center, or, some informal thing. Friday night, last Shuttle Fest,
Yeah.
we went up to the viewing area and saw SpaceX launch.
Yeah.
And it was great. And we this year, or for next year, have the added advantage of Yuri's night is Saturday
Yes.
night at Kennedy Space Center. So that's another event that people can be coming into town for, and combine it with Shuttle Fest.
Well, we're putting it together thanks to the enthusiasm of Chris and Tom, and Mark Usiak also been involved in it. We're always going to have an art panel, how our approach to Shuttle Fest. And yes, we're blessed that we can continue on that Space Fest did. The Poor family out there in Tucson, Kim Poor, very talented space artist. I've got his pistachio moon on my wall at home up there, and I talked to he passed away, and his wife talked to Sally a couple years ago and said, we don't want to step on your toes,
sure.
but we're on the East Coast. She says, oh no, it'll never be like it was. It was fueled by the Apollo astronauts.
Absolutely.
And man, I saw a picture like 20 Apollo astronauts there in the family picture, and I'm like going, that's unbelievable.
I remember the first year my kids came. So I don't know, my daughter was, let's say, 6. My son was 8. And Al Hallenquist, who was a really good friend of mine and to many space
Yes, I
enthusiasts.
know. I know. He passed
Um,
away about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was that was very sad. But Al was kind of like the astronaut wrangler, for Nova Space at those shows. And when Ariana and Ian did these drawings of astronauts and stuff up in the hotel room, and they brought him down to show, to show people, especially Alan Bean, because
Huh.
Alan and my dad were good friends, and Al loved the drawings and took the kids, especially Ariana, from astronaut to astronaut. Started with Buzz Aldrin, actually.
Huh.
And Buzz looked at, oh, that's a beautiful drawing. You're Paul Callie's granddaughter, and and he signed it.
Oh,
And
wow.
so Ariana has there's a drawing of Ariana's of an astronaut that's signed by like 7 guys who walked on the moon and another 5 or 6 Apollo astronauts. It's incredible. It's really incredible.
Yeah, Nova Space, they have an archive of their programs there. You can still buy astronaut autographs. I bought this globe from them, in fact. Right there. There's old Charlie Duke's
Yep.
autograph on right there. I bought that at Nova Space probably going on 25 years ago there.
Pretty nice.
And yeah, so no, Shuttlefest is a go, and you'll be hearing more about that. So thank you, and cheers here to Barry Smith. Barry Smith is a wonderful docent here. He gave me this mug that you see the constellations are showing where it's still hot, where I haven't drank it. Barry's put us in touch with Ed Rizak, who knows all the astronauts. He trained all the spacewalkers, and Ed's going to be a big part of our Shuttle Fest celebrating the Hubble.
That'll
But
be
these
great.
Shuttle Fests are about you, the space worker. Marty Winkle here on the board is a national treasure for what he did on the Apollo program with the lunar module, working for Grumman. Then he spent 30 years with these engines that you see burning us up behind us here on the SSME engine, not the solids, but we're serious about that. And this is for you all, and we hope we built it. The astronauts will come to celebrate with you. We've already got one astronaut that's kind of given an eye to it, that he's interested in coming. There's 32 astronauts involved with the Hubble missions.
Great.
12 spacewalkers. It'll certainly be an event you won't want to miss. And as I put the meme up again there, it's going to be limited to 125 people because of the size of the Hyatt Place Hotel. September 1st, we'll have open registration, and it's going to be $90 for both days. And with that money, we can afford to bring in some A-list guests on this. So
Sounds terrific.
it's taken,
Great idea.
like I've told my boss, it's gone from Mark's Lemonade Stand, Shuttle Fest. Now we're going to make it into a real brick and mortar type of event here, and an important fundraiser. But you love it. You want to be part of space history. That's why you're watching Stay Curious. That's why you go to this museum. That's why you support all of the wonderful social media out there.
And the panels are terrific.
And the
because
panels are terrific.
It's not just about the history. You're bringing in people who are working in the industry right now.
Right.
Because, I mean, this is the Space Coast. And
We'll have an astronomer there talking about Hubble discoveries.
Yep.
We'll always have an art in space panel, and we'll always have a future in space panel, and bring on some future companies. Maybe get some people's ideas for new space telescopes or something like that on that panel.
And now with
So-
2 days, we can expand and have more talks.
Exactly. Yep. And more partying, because you got to do something in the evening, right? And we're already thinking through a lot of those things. So please support us. I know Steve Jokums out there at the Lake County Spaceport. Hello, Steve. Has already financed a shuttle patch,
Look at
a
that.
Shuttle Fest patch. This is Steve's own personal patch. All right.
See that?
He's got a. You're going home with one of
I
those.
love it.
He has a
Looks great,
decal
Steve.
business up in Lake County, Illinois, west of Chicago area on Lake Michigan up there. Yeah, you're a patch artist. You like that design, don't
I
you?
like that design.
Yeah.
It's a really nice
Yeah,
design.
he's and we appreciate Steve and all of his energy. He's one of these guys that wishes he lived within an hour's drive of here, but then that might be detrimental because you got to get your wife on board to help us. Your financial donations. No, I know she is. And Steve, thank you very much. I always love talking about him and how he's supporting our museum. But here's why you're here. Tell us about these two. Have you met either one of them? Dave Hilmers on
I
the
have
left and
not
Marsha
met
Ivins.
either of them.
Me neither.
No, and you're going to be at the event on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, not the
induction.
expensive
No,
event.
the induction
Uh,
at KSC.
yeah, at KSC. Yeah, the public event.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
be back in the cheap seats, but
Always interesting.
it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I basically go to see make John Zarella see if he can make a fool of
Oh
himself.
gosh. He never makes a fool of it.
No, he doesn't. That's why they have him up there. But so 4 missions for Hilmers, 5 for Marcia.
Wow.
A lot of amazing pioneering on those missions. As you see, Hilmers was on the return to flight, STS-26. And we were going to talk about them on Friday on our Stay Curious program. We touched on them a little bit, but we'll hit them on Friday. Tomorrow, as I'm talking about, I'm going to take you around the solar system. What's going on? Hey, have you forgot about China's going to land on the backside of the moon? When are they going to do that?
When are they
Stay
gonna do
curious tomorrow. Stay curious tomorrow. All right? Or buy me dinner tonight, and I'll tell you.
that? I'll wait till tomorrow.
Here's a beautiful lady, Caroline Shoemaker. For the last 5 years, she's been president and CEO of this Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. You know a lot about it. You've been involved with it for how long? And tell us a little about it.
Well, 6 or 7 years. You probably know as much as I do, but I mean, it's the focus is the scholars. You know, raising money for scholars in STEM, and it's just this weekend is just an amazing event because it combines the Hall of Fame events, you know, with the induction, but it also this space rendezvous where they have talks and discussions, and you know, astronauts giving presentations. And this year something new. They're having an art show this year. The last time we had an art show at the ASF was in Houston back in I don't even remember when that was. That was 7 or 8 years ago, I think. And that was when they were still having Space Rendezvous as a memorabilia show, autograph and memorabilia show. That was the last year they had that autograph and memorabilia show, and it was a small space art show, just like there is this year. It's the artists are myself.
Yeah, who's involved there? We'll talk about them Friday too.
Yeah, Dave Ginsburg, Nicole Stott will have some pieces there.
Astronaut Nicole Stott.
Yeah, and Ron Woods will have a couple pieces there.
Oh, good.
And Dave Ginsburg.
Ronnie Woods was a suit tech in Apollo and Shuttle era, and then he does mostly watercolors, I think.
He does, although he at Shuttlefest he had a really nice acrylic painting that he had completed for a client who actually picked it up.
But he'll take we featured Ron before. He'll take a set of gloves laying there. I like his Apollo suits that look like they're at a dry cleaner's.
Yeah, well, it's like a
there.
closet. It's like somebody just open up your closet, and instead of a couple of suits, there's Apollo suits.
We love you, Ronnie. I got to give him a call and see if he's going back to the.
Yeah, I don't think he's in town this weekend, or he'd be coming over to.
Right. He's
a
snowbird and spends his time up in the New England area up there. So, you're going to have art as part of it.
Yep.
Talk about the foundation, 800 students, $8 million in scholarships over 48 universities. I'm going to show you a little bit about what that looks like. Caroline and her team have done a fabulous job of this is not an easy thing to corral about a board of directors. It's got 15 astronauts on it and all those type personalities, alpha
big group
on there. And but they do there's going to be an astronaut cocktail challenge on Thursday, tomorrow night, that we'll be at, and I think you'll be able to recognize me when you show up.
I'm afraid to see. Okay.
And that'll be at the Zarella's restaurant. Fire kiln the pizzas over there. And then they have an induction on Saturday. Then they have a big black tie soiree underneath Atlantis that night. And then Sunday or Saturday night, they kind of have
underneath Atlantis, underneath the Saturn V.
Oh, the Saturn V is where the dinner is. Okay, so the induction is under Atlantis.
Correct.
And 11 in the morning, unless they move it. Then the Saturn V has the big
Saturn V
dinner.
Yep.
And
during the cocktail party, there'll be a little Chris Calle gallery. I am the featured artist at the ASF weekend.
Okay. Yes. So you need me to help you set up your easels,
sure.
I guess. Huh?
You can always help me set up.
Okay. Well, I'll be there. You know that. And then Saturday night, they have kind of an after cocktail party that's, the older astronauts, you see them going to bed, and the younger ones you see imbibing a little bit there.
It's fun.
Are you doing a talk this year?
I'm not doing a talk this year. I did a talk, I think, 3 years ago. Was the last one I did a talk on the
We did one last year
no,
about kind of your dad's legacy and your stuff, I think.
No.
Okay.
I gave a talk about 3 years ago, 3 years ago on the NASA Fine Art program.
Well, these are my heroes for sure. Growing up in the '60s as a baby boomer, these are my heroes for sure. Had their posters on the wall, and believe me, you couldn't find posters just everywhere. I think I got them from NASA and asked them. But of course, the Mercury 7 astronauts 40 years ago said, we want to help kids. We got money. What are we going to do? And they created this. And Wally Schirra is quoted as saying that of all the things I've done in my life, and us Mercury astronauts done in our life, this might be the most important thing we've done.
Wow.
Imagine that.
Well, it's a living legacy. It continues to reap benefits. So I can understand that. And little did they know back then.
There's their little logo there. You didn't have anything to do with that, did you?
I did not.
The astronaut pin is shown there in the middle very beautifully. Just to give you an idea of what kind of kids get education there. It's not balanced to any one real area, though you would guess life sciences and aerospace engineering would be the top. And then you get the other disciplines of science, including physics, mechanical engineering, chemistry. There's even some meteorology at the bottom, mathematics, all right, environmental engineering and science, materials engineering. So, it's the gamut of what we need to explore. All right. We need to be curious with our astronomy and chemistry. We need to understand what things are made of, atmospheres with the chemistry. We need to engineer vehicles to go there. It's just a beautiful layout. And here are the colleges that are involved. Of course, Purdue University. There's your University of Michigan. Ohio State's right below it. Go Buckeyes.
As they should be, below Michigan.
LSU, all kinds of, Georgia Tech, of course, tremendous engineering school.
They'll live everywhere.
And Mitch,
Illinois, Texas.
Mitch Rothman's in here. I was talking about. Is Oklahoma on there?
I'm not from Oklahoma.
Okay.
So I went.
Yeah, you're from New York, I know.
Well,
But he's been to Oklahoma.
But Mitch did he's MC for a wonderful in remembrance of Bill Pogue. Was that last month?
So that was in April.
Okay.
I was in Tulsa for the soft opening of a Bill Pogue display that we helped raise money for.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Pogue, of course, flew on Skylab 4. He was pilot aboard Skylab 4. And native from Oklahoma, not far from Tulsa, had donated a bunch of artifacts prior to his passing. And the museum featured a temporary exhibit earlier this year. I had an opportunity to go there, and when I got there, they didn't have the facilities they needed to properly display these artifacts, in my view. And they knew, the way the objects were displayed, they needed different display cases, and they needed to do a whole exhibit dedicated to this.
Well, we're going to have Mitch on to talk all about that there, Mitch. Don't want to get off too much of a tangent there. I'm going to swing the camera around and put you on there. So, but appreciate you being here. And I love Oklahoma. I've been to Tom Stafford's museum 4 times. The Oklahoma City Museum is fabulous on Interstate 40 up there. And then you're just less than 3 hours south of the Cosmosphere. And Marty, we're going to do that road trip someday. I swear we need to do that and take the time off and hopefully take it on the road with Stay Curious when we're ready to do that. But Mitch, thank you for your comments there. Let's get to your piece of work here, the artwork. There's the full page.
There you go.
View of it there. Let's see, you're hiding as I make it a little bit smaller. So the idea of this was to represent all 7 astronauts who were presidents of the Scholarship Foundation.
Correct. In some way.
And those would
as part of
be
this montage. So current president Kurt Brown. So it's Kurt Brown,
Commander of STS 95, of course,
Yep.
in the pumpkin suits.
so Kurt Brown, Jim Lovell, Alan Shepard, Charlie Duke, Al Warden, Dan Brandenstein, and Owen Garriott.
Okay.
So as part of the montage, I've included each.
Owen
of those.
Garrett's not with us, nor is, of course, Glenn.
Yep.
Uh,
Or Al Warden.
or Al Warden. Yeah, Uncle Al was the president for a while. Wow,
Yep.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, he's greatly missed. I was privileged to have known him the last couple of years of his life, and
He's a great guy.
what a character, Mr. Al
He was a
Warden. We've
character.
told stories on Stay Curious before, because he's a very frank individual, and you don't want him to follow you after your speech, okay? Because he'll rip you apart like he did. Well, when Ed Mitchell started talking about extrasensory perception and what he did with his Noetic Institute. Al Warden got up after Ed Mitchell talked and says, everything Al's talking about, that's BS. And that's a famous little event around here. So, but well, let's go. You have one other piece of art that you shared with me that you developed there. There's the close up.
Mhm.
Now this is just to give you. I like that close up. All right.
I do
When you
too.
look at it this way, you don't see his brush strokes.
Yep.
And how thick he's putting that.
In some places, as I've mentioned about,
That's actually a photograph, isn't it?
Well,
That you embellish.
It's part of this whole technique of this montage series that I've been working on. You know, I paint traditionally, just oil on canvas,
Mhm.
pencil on paper. But this sort of Robert Rauschenberg, who was an artist from the '60s and '70s,
Robert Rauschenberg.
Robert
Yes,
Rauschenberg inspired. I use Photoshop. I use digital imagery. I use paint. I use drawing, manipulating everything to form this kind of montage. And for me, it's a great technique for manned spaceflight history, because you can, in one piece, you can incorporate the past, the present, and
Mhm.
the future, and which is sort of what I've done here. And
He's copied that technique, okay, from your dad, which is
from my
awesome.
father.
No, I mean that in a loving way. I certainly do,
Okay.
because you're going to see the similarity here. Now, there's a piece of artwork you sent me.
It's one of my modern art pieces.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's your easel board.
So
isn't
that's actually my father and my easel.
it? Your father.
And it's
used it?
really just, when you have a board and you're coating it with gesso, or you have a painting and you paint, over the board or over the canvas, and it touches the basically the wood tabletop. It just forms all these abstract designs, and really it's pretty amazing.
And you've used
so
yeah.
I used it for the border of this after you and I had discussed something similar about a month or two ago. So
I told him I was
it's
looking at something, and I go, I realize that's probably the easel that you use for the border. there.
right. You
It's
said
like-
I love the border
Yeah,
that you
I
did
do.
on that, and I'm like, Mark, that's just I just photographed my painting on the easel. That's not part
Yeah,
of it.
that's why you sent that to me. So,
I like it. I like it just like
oh,
that.
the heritage. I mean, when do you think your dad first spilled a paint on
I
that?
don't know. Probably.
I mean, 50 years ago.
Is that some blue tape too? This blue tape towards the top, a little blue
Yeah.
tape. Yeah, probably 50 years ago.
Well, being a photography artist myself, I miss a dark room for that reason. In my dark room, you always do a test strip
Mhm.
when I was printing tons of black and white portraits,
Mhm.
and I'd always do the test strip over the eyes.
Mhm.
All right, and so then at the end of the test strip, I wouldn't throw them away. I'd put a piece of tape
Sure.
on, put them on the wall behind me, and then behind me I got all these eyes looking at me over the years.
Well, it's
Somewhere
all
I
those-
got a photo of that. And that's what that reminds me
But
of.
it's all those like happy accidents when you're, because when you're trying to do something, you're so into it and trying to make it look like you think it should look.
Uh-huh.
But there's those happy accidents that, you're not concerned about what's going on
Yeah.
as you're painting that. And I
That's
guess
right.
that's what successful abstract artists must feel too, that it just comes together in some way.
Well, you're an inspiration to me, and I dabble with
Aw.
a little bit of pencil, but it's just like you keep saying, just do what you're doing.
keep doing it.
Just do it. And
My father would always say, draw, draw, draw.
yeah,
You
just
know,
keep drawing.
just keep doing
and
it.
For me, I'm staying focused on one kind of subject. And I think a lot of artists do that. Just then they're finally done with that subject and move on to some other thing. So let's see here. We've got that puts the button on David and
Yep.
Marcia there. There'll be a lot of female astronauts in attendance. I know I talked to Kay Heyer a month ago. Kay says, I'm going to be there to see my girl Marcia.
Oh, she wasn't
All right.
on that list
Uh,
that Marty read to us.
right. But, well, she's might just be coming on her own there. And Kay's kind of likes being under the radar. She's, yeah, she does. But, so that'll be a big one. She's a very petite lady, I understand. So, and she's known for her big hair in space up there.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, the big hair in space up there. And anyway, Marty, why don't you take off that banner on the top there, please? And this is your father.
That is my father, Paul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paul Calle. And what's the situation there? What's this Western stuff?
I think I was photographing him for a portrait he needed for an article in a Western art magazine. And this was actually probably a year before he passed away.
Yeah.
And this is in our studio. We shared a studio.
Like 13 years ago or something. God
Yeah.
bless him.
Yeah, wow.
And
Hard to believe it's that long.
Uh,
But he's, I still work in the same studio, and he's around me every day.
That's
he's
that's
always there.
yeah.
But,
That's
but
never
that-
goes away.
it
That's
looks
the way
very
to be.
serious there. Though.
That's the way to be there. Yeah.
Oh no, it's not serious.
Well, let's see. Where have I gotten? Okay, you wrote a book
I did.
here, and let's show that book here as we have it up there. Tell us about why you wrote this book. It's gorgeous. We have it here in the museum, and if you want an autographed copy, we will charge you the cost of the book, which I think is $25,
It's 25 or 29.
and shipping on that. But yeah, tell us about this.
Well, it's just it starts with my father's early science fiction artwork. I mean, it's called Apollo 11, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah,
my
it
father.
is.
From anybody who doesn't know who my father was in the space community, he was one when NASA chose the Mercury 7. They chose 8 artists to continue the final flight of Mercury, the Gordon Cooper's flight, and into Gemini, throughout Apollo, into the space shuttle. The program, the NASA Fine Art program, lasted. There's probably some vestige of it still going on today. I covered some missions of the space shuttle, but Dad was there for all Gemini and all Apollo. Like I said, beginning with Gordon Cooper's.
There he is in the foreground with
On
the black
left.
hair.
Yep. Sketching with, I believe that's Lamar Dodd, and I'm not sure who the other artist was. But
Lamar Dodd was the second of 8 with Paul Calle that were invited by the great administrator James Webb.
Yep.
And he wanted to bring more than just photographers and movie cameras to the scene. And you talk about that. There's a whole chapter about it in here. But quickly, what I'm amused by is they were given free reign of a military complex, and with their little sketch pads and their little sun hats on.
But it was different then, I think what it was. So Jim Dean was the first director.
Yes.
He was an artist, and
Yeah, we didn't mention Jim Dean, who you said was like an uncle to you.
Well, I mean, yeah, Jim. I remember one of my father's first story about Jim was he always would talk about the Starcraft Motel or the Spacecraft Motel, and he said that first trip down there for Gordon Cooper's launch, he jumped in the pool and he popped out of the pool and he was facing some guy and, "Hi, I'm Paul Calle. I'm Jim Dean," and that formed a friendship that lasted 60
I
years.
think it was Starlight.
What's that?
Starlight.
Starlight.
I remember my dad always talked also about the Astrocraft Motel. That's where I think the artists used to get together after drawing and everything, and they would they would drink wine and whiskey and stuff. And I have a whole number of whiskey and wine labels that they peeled off the bottles, where artists would do drawings on the back. So, and I have a couple of my dad's. He did the Atlas launch,
Oh,
and
yes.
Robert Rauschenberg did a little drawing for my dad. I have on the back of a whiskey bottle. Yeah.
That's where, any medium you got there. Marty,
Yep,
thank you for
absolutely.
manning the board. We have any questions or comments? I know you'll chime in there with them as everybody's just transfixed with our conversation here. Two seminal works of art, major works of art, really, as far as space astronaut art, were formed by your dad. This one, Power.
Yep, the Atlas rocket. Yep.
The boat tail of the three engine Atlas 2B up there, and there's a famous story of your dad is beside James Dean, and
right.
it caught him quite by surprise.
Yep. My dad, and in one of the books it says one of the artists said this, and then the other book it says Paul Calle said this. But when the rocket launched, my dad, I think the quote is something like, "My God, there's a man in that thing," that power of that.
But what an artistic mind! He's got not even a fourth of the rocket there. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
he's got the bottom fourth of it.
He's got the power of it.
And he's got this gantry and just the colors and the passion and and then
I actually used a little piece of this on that painting that we have in the background.
there's another one that's we're going to show you called Power to Go, which is an Atlas launch. That's 2 stories at mural at the U.S.
At the U.S.
Rocket
Space
Center.
Rocket Center. Yep.
Is this in a big mural anywhere? Or where would
This is at the Air and Space. The last I saw it was over a dozen years ago. They had it on display for some exhibit. I don't know if it's in storage. I don't believe it's traveling. There's a new, I don't know if when that opens, the new Destination Moon or the new exhibit, and I don't know if there's any artwork in that. I'm hoping they have Power to Go or one of my father's pieces.
You can go to Calle Space Art website, and you can buy copies of this that are signed by your
And
dad.
we're redeveloping the website even as we speak.
Now here's another, not a photograph, folks. This is a mixed media that your dad did. Tell us about this.
Well, it's sort of a wild story for this one. I think I've told you. My dad, after Cooper's launch, my dad had started formulating this idea where he wanted to kind of do a still life, incorporating Cooper's spacesuit and helmet, maybe the boots, the gloves. And so he asked Jim Dean, he mentioned to Jim Dean, told him he'd like to do almost like a still life. And, you think, NASA can send me, Cooper's spacesuit and helmet and stuff. And Jim said, let me make some calls. And sure enough, a box just shows up, let's say a month later.
And you got in the box first, before anybody else. All right.
But the
hey, Mom, look what was in the box.
It was just whatever UPS or whatever was back then. It just showed up.
There was no UPS back then.
Whatever it was, it just showed up there in some box.
Yes,
not
Postal Service.
Not a crate, with everything form fitting.
The actual Cooper space
suit, gloves, and helmet.
And
my brother and I used to put the helmet on and put the gloves on, and so my father set up this still life that you see in the garage, and he painted it in the garage. I think at that point his studio was in our family room, and he was utilizing it for his illustration work, and so he set this up in the garage. And then as he was completing it, he just hung the suit in the hall closet, and my brother and I would climb in the suit, and when people would come in the front door, we'd reach up with the arm and stuff.
But your brother,
it was just Paul.
Paul, okay.
It was just a kick for us. I am sorry that we had to return them back to NASA.
Great story of 1963 is this time frame there. So 64 around there.
Yeah, he probably did this around 64, I guess.
So there you are, cute little kid there. You got him on backwards even. Here's a book. This is a third or fourth reprint of this thing. But NASA, this is a good book to kind of capsulize the whole history of NASA space art in there. Marty said UPS was founded in 1907.
So UPS.
So I am wrong. Okay. Yeah, UPS said, thank you, Marty, and for keeping me on my toes. Most libraries have this book. I recommend that you go check it out. The front looks funky there because it's one of those
lenticular.
Yeah, where you move it and it's, the 50 years goes away and the space there. But you need to check this out, and by James Dean, the director of this, and then he become the first director of Smithsonian's art program, correct?
I believe so. And he covered some launches, and he actually, I believe, was on the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee for a time, and which is the sort of the governing body that decides what subjects become stamps. And he designed a couple stamps, did the painting for the Bartholdi, the sculptor who, the designer who sculpted the Statue of Liberty.
Oh,
He designed that
wow.
postage stamp. Yeah.
Well, so the few that have seen Chris on before, we're repeating some of this knowledge, but it's always a good story to tell. This is a good one. I remember your dad actually doing the Saturn. Is this the Saturn?
Saturn V, Apollo 17.
So
Apollo
that's
17.
so that's July 16th, 1969.
No,
so-
this is Apollo 17.
Oh, 17. So
Yeah.
it's December.
From the hood of our car watching the launch.
Oh, he wouldn't have a fancy place out there to.
We were on the hood of the car,
Really?
station wagon.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
This is super hard to do for me to do this dominating all the black that he has in there. And
I remember that was the launch. It was delayed and delayed and delayed. I can remember falling asleep on the hood of the car.
night launch, yeah,
Night
of
launch,
course,
Kept
on
getting
there.
delayed.
That's why it was like from 8 o'clock, and it went a little after 12:30
Yep,
or something
yep,
like
after
that,
midnight, yeah.
as I recall. In December 1972, the last time humans left this earth to land on the moon.
Mhm.
And here is one of his masterpieces that we
Yep.
talked about.
Power to go.
And see, I'm talking about, folks, the globs of white paint there that 51 years ago, your dad was, no, well, it'd been about 49 years ago.
This was for
48.
Apollo 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Apollo 8?
Apollo 8.
Oh,
First-
okay.
the first Saturn V launch.
1968 then,
Yeah.
on there.
And this painting has an interesting history. It's at Air and Space now. I don't know if it's on, same thing. I don't know if it's on exhibit. But when Bill Anders became the ambassador to Sweden, I think it was ambassador to Sweden. Marty, can you look that up? I think he was
Bill
ambassador,
Anders was an ambassador
ambassador to
to.
Sweden. And I guess when you become ambassador, you're able to bring artwork from the national collection. And he chose Power to Go, and I think a Remington painting, so which is very interesting. So Western art and space art, similar to the two passions of my father, and among other things.
That's very interesting. By the way, NASA's Space Art and Photography. Go ahead, Mark.
Norway. Ambassador to Norway.
Who was the ambassador in Norway? Was
Bill Anders.
Bill Anders on Apollo 8. All right. He's 80-some years old, 88 years old, I believe. And he's like 84. He's one of the younger guys out there. But NASA artwork, the photographs are considered legitimate artwork today by designers of offices and that sort of thing. You see the Apollo mural of the 170 steps to go to the moon and back.
I saw that recently.
You
Yeah.
see that? There's
Recently, I saw
a
TV
couch or
commercial.
something
Yep,
like that.
yep,
Yeah.
I saw that too.
Yeah. So
Well, space is in. Space is hot.
space is hot, and we're have one of the hottest artists here with us, Chris Calle. We're happy about that, and I mean that. So I love that in this book, Chris says that probably in every household in America, in some junk drawer somewhere, in
Junk
the
drawer, but
kitchen
somewhere.
or somewhere, is a stamp from 1969, or I guess it'd be 1970 when it was issued. This stamp,
And what I mean by that is that you don't have to be a stamp collector.
right?
This is an iconic image.
Everyone knows
You know,
this image.
you don't have to be a stamp collector. You don't have to even be a space enthusiast. You know, the world was transfixed. You know, in 1969.
I read
And this is an
1.5 B with a billion.
I think so.
A B with a billion.
Yeah, I believe so.
Even if you got a penny off of that, each one, you're buying me dinner tonight.
No royalties. No royalties.
No royalties.
Off stamp, no.
Yeah, really, you just get paid a thing there. But what a thing that your son and daughter and their grandkids are going to be able to say. You
Sure,
know,
it's a legacy.
I mean, this is forever an iconic image there.
Well, but the great story of this, I think, well, the sort of the legacy story is my father designed the moon landing stamp in 1969, and when it came to the 20th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, the Postal Service asked me to design the.
And we've got that. I believe we've got the.
Oh yeah, we do.
We've
All right,
got
we'll get
that
to
to
that.
show there.
All right, we'll get to that.
Yeah, I set it up there a little
Okay.
bit on there, but no, we love that. Did your dad ever say anything about something here that was bugging him that he couldn't work out?
Not so
or-
much bugging, but
Art and artistic language I'm talking about here.
well, NASA had no way of knowing whether the pad of the LEM, how deep it would sink.
Oh, okay.
And they speculated about how the depth of the lunar surface and how deep the footprint would go in, but they didn't know. And so my dad always said that he was just so relieved, when they landed, that the pad didn't sink more than he showed. What he showed was very accurate.
He was working on this even before the landing.
He was working on this before the launch.
Okay.
Because
Years
the actual Apollo 11 mission took the master die that
Oh, yeah,
stands for
really?
it. And I read an interesting article about that later. It wasn't actually the die, because the die is thick and heavy.
Yeah.
They took a die and then they chiseled out everything they possibly could just to get sort of the image out of it.
Huh. Well, that is a beautiful, iconic image.
is.
For my money, this is my favorite Calle moon, right there, and that's my favorite thing of your dad's right there in Apollo, and because I love the title, "The Great Moment."
Yeah. And all
The great moment. I mean, just think of that.
and
Neil
all that
Armstrong-
expanse.
and his
4 by 8
face,
feet, 4 by 8
How he drew his face, and which of course had a gold cover on it there, but it's just really.
And
I would like to
it's
own that
those
someday.
tentative steps. Let me say that for a second. I was telling
Yeah.
Mitch earlier today that Mike Collins for this painting, Mill Pond Press, my dad's publisher at the time, did a limited edition print of the Great Moment.
Uh-huh.
And Mike Collins wrote sort of like an introduction to the print. So let me read this quote from
Oh,
Mike
yeah,
Collins.
sure.
And I
Absolutely,
told
yeah.
Mitch, I have a print of the Great Moment that Mike Collins wrote this inscription on. It's probably,
Ooh.
from what I hear, it's one of the longest Mike Collins inscriptions. It says, "This painting of my friend Neil Armstrong by my friend Paul Calle combines for me the best of 2 worlds. NASA's technological achievements and an artist's exquisite interpretation of it. It looks as beautiful today as it did 50 years ago and as it will 100 years from now." Michael Collins, Apollo 11 Command Module pilot. It's a
Also an
great quote.
artist.
Also an artist.
Also
who
an
could
artist.
appreciate both the technology and the art.
Yeah, just awesome. You owe yourself to get that book. It might be at the library, but go buy it at Amazon, or we've got some copies here. If you're local, come by the museum. We'll have some signed copies here. We're gonna have
Or
you sign.
email Chris Calle.
There you go. Your dad did this?
Yep. Ed White, Gemini 4 spacewalk. That was I believe that was the first U.S. Centennial stamp. So one painting, or one image, and
Mhm.
divided into 2 stamps.
1965. It was 5 cents.
Yeah.
Okay. Then it went to 10 cents in '69, and
No, it didn't. 10 cents. The Apollo moon landings 10-cent stamp. That was an airmail stamp.
Oh, that was the airmail stamp on
so
that.
It might have gone.
Oh, that is airmail. Yeah,
It
yeah.
might have gone to
So it's
5.
8. I think
Yeah.
it's maybe 8.
Maybe 8.
Yeah, on there. Did he ever talk about?
Talked about the sketches, and I have the sketches at home, some of the sketches. The interesting thing about this is he also designed the type. That's my father's design type. That's like no typeface. Because
Okay.
back then, you didn't have Photoshop, and, to
Huh.
drop type in and move things around. I was telling somebody recently about the moon landing stamp. For each time he wanted to change where it said first man on the moon, or United States, or the denomination, he'd have to do a separate sketch. And so there are probably a dozen sketches, different sketches of the same stamp image.
Yeah, it's fun to look at an artist's work and see the prep they did.
Right, the
They,
progression.
this just wasn't out of the chute at all. I'm
Yep.
gonna start drawing this. It's all planned,
Sure.
and you look at it. Really complicated hand.
I'm
and
gonna do a painting of the walk.
Now this is something that you and your dad did. and
No, it's
still
my
do.
dad did.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a
These are for sale.
This is a hand-drawn first day cover that my dad had done back, in the
Yeah,
60s.
look at how that looks like the stamp.
Yeah.
Just freehand sitting there watching Jeopardy, or maybe not doing that.
And what I was hoping, I think I have one of these hand-drawn spacewalk covers signed by, with the exception of Ed White, obviously. Who are the guys, Gemini astronauts who spacewalk? Dick Gordon.
Yeah.
I have one signed by Dick.
uh,
Dave Scott.
and of course 12
Cernan.
and
Aldrin.
10 was Collins. Yeah,
He's did space.
yeah, White, Cernan, Collins, Gordon, and Buzz. Yes,
Right.
Marty.
Got a comment from Tom Usiak. He said, I photographed the unveiling of Chris's 20th anniversary stamp with President Bush and the Apollo 11 crew at the Air and Space Museum in 1989.
Thank you,
I
Tom.
remember it well.
We're going to see that picture. Those are pictures I haven't seen. I know you're going to send me. Here is your chops.
That's a hand drawn. So I followed my dad did the same hand drawn covers for Apollo 11. I did many of them, and I followed that with doing these hand drawn covers for the 20th anniversary. Yep. So I started to say earlier that my father designed the original moon landing stamp. Postal Service came to me to design the 20th anniversary moon landing stamp, and then you'll see we jointly designed two stamps: this $9.95 express mail stamp and a 29-cent commemorative stamp for the 25th anniversary.
So how did you all collaborate?
Well, at that time, it's interesting. We had separate studios, and so really we were, literally bringing it from one studio to the other. And I'll stick with what my father said, about who did, everybody would always ask who did what part, like this.
Yeah.
My father would always say, Chris did the best parts. And I would say, my dad did the best parts. But it was very collaborative, and a lot of fun in that way.
What a joy to work with your dad in something that you both have a passion of.
Yeah,
that is a small sector of society out there. But to me, it smacks as like being an athlete and seeing your son,
Sure,
become a pro athlete or something like that.
Yeah.
So there's your dad.
Mm-hmm. In front of a big print of Power, The Great Moment.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see you in a beard.
No, I don't think so.
No,
Most I got was 4 days ago, and I went 3 days without shaving, I think.
Okay, all right. But this is wanted to throw this in there. This is your dad is so well known outside the space community with this fur trappers.
Oh,
was his thing.
Western art. He had three very distinct careers. His illustration career, where he designed everything from corporate annual report covers and books to Time magazine covers, postage stamps, Saturday Evening Post covers, Boy's Life. So there was that sort of section of his artistic career. Then there was the NASA career, and actually there's four. So it's really illustration, NASA, philately, postage stamps, and his last probably 25, almost 30 years was painting the fur trapper. The history of the fur trapper of the American West.
And there is a museum dedicated to his work?
There isn't. There was a big retrospective that opened the year before COVID hit. It was supposed to be up for like 8 months. So it opened in February 2019 in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
Scottsdale's Museum of the West. And it was up 2019, and then because of COVID, it stayed up, and it stayed up for like 3 years because of COVID, and eventually, they had other shows that they wanted to put on, but it was great, and it really was a true retrospective. It started with a drawing my father did when he was about 10 years old, beautiful drawing of almost like King Arthur, with a castle, and then it ended with the last painting he did. I'll have to send you the image. It's called Down from the High Country. And it's three mountain men sort of on the top of a mountain about to start going down the mountain. And I remember I wrote copy with my dad for the painting, and we equated it to three intrepid explorers facing the unknown. And and my dad, and he did that in 2019. It was his last major painting, and his tip to the 40th anniversary of the moon landing was he put a little moon in the sky. It's actually in the book.
2009, I think.
2009.
Yeah.
2009.
Well, we're going to look at a couple of things as I ask you. I mean, the Southwest art is just unbelievable.
Yeah, here's
and
there's the Down from the High Country. I don't know if you can see it, but up.
I'll put it up front there.
Yeah, you can see just up in the sky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's just a little
I
hint
see
of
moon,
the
upper right.
of the moon. And let me see what
Well, I mean, did he become disinterested in space?
no,
Or
not
just
not disinterested is, we always talked about, my dad as a space artist related to someone like Bob McCall as a space artist.
right?
My dad had, like I said, all these different facets of his artistic
Yeah.
career. Someone like Bob dedicated his whole life. He was Mr. Space Art.
Right.
He will always be Mr. Space Art. My dad had a varied career in art, different subjects. Not so much subjects, but different passions, let's say.
I'm going to say he was more
Um,
versatile than a lot of artists, being able to change genres, sort of. It's
I
like an
guess,
artist
or
playing rock, and then all of a sudden you're a jazz musician.
and that's what it is. Some artists are just rock and roll. Other artists, rock and roll. Then they do an album that's jazz, and they do an album. So that's a
Yeah.
very good
I
analogy.
think that's your dad there.
That's a very good analogy.
Dig into Paul Calle after you check out Chris, but because they're so similar. But just how both of these gentlemen's minds work, father like son. Let me go here. There is a sketch of.
That's Wally Sharam. So my father was.
Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to show a finished one there. And there.
Yep.
There you go.
So my father was asked to be the only artist with the Apollo 7 crew for their mission. It was the first time they had an artist in the suiting up room.
Uh-huh.
And my dad didn't know that, but Jim Dean and Deke Slayton had talked that they really were going to have to get somebody in for Apollo 11 to fully document the suiting up, the breakfast, the suiting up, the launch. And this was sort of like the dry run that only Jim and Deke really knew, that they wanted my dad, to do it when Apollo 11 launched. So the whole idea was for him to be like a fly on the wall, and to see if it would be conducive, if the suiting up was conducive to having an artist there. They would have a photographer, they would have a videographer, but would it be too many people? Would it be too intrusive? And so he was the artist that Deke assigned.
Now this is sketching on the fly, very quick.
Yep,
Maybe
pen
just
and ink. Yep.
not even maybe 3 to 5 minutes effort
Sure,
there, probably,
absolutely.
huh?
Yeah.
And then here's
Walt Cunningham. Yep.
okay, huh? And then your dad takes it. I mean, look at the detail in the back,
Yep.
which
Yep.
are the same. We showed a picture yesterday of Sonny and Butch in the suit room, and the same controls are in the background.
Wow.
There. Yeah.
Wow.
But then your dad takes it home with him with his notes and
Mhm.
into your studio, and it
Yep.
becomes this.
And with that, then
I mean, look at this, folks.
and this
From
is
there,
like after the launch, and you could see similarities, but there's a lot that he probably then got photographs from the NASA photographers, and kind of pieced together what he wasn't able to capture in those just minutes. You say about the the Boeing launch, and I'm gonna try to figure out some kind of where they really need to get an artist to start sketching some of these astronauts. And I'd love to be that guy, kind of following in my dad's footsteps in that vein. I think the whole beauty of that NASA fine art program, was to interpret differently.
Mhm.
And so many beautiful photographs now, so many beautiful digitally, influenced photographs. I think it's time to, show the art side as well.
yeah, let the sketch. They do not have sketch artists like in the. They didn't with the shuttle. They didn't with the.
Well, the shuttle, the program was still going on during the
Okay.
shuttle. I've got some drawings of like the walkout that I did, and my dad and I both have sketchbooks. I forget, maybe it was STS 9, maybe, that we went down together. And boy, our sketchbooks! I had certainly learned that pen and ink, from him, because they look so similar.
Yeah.
But boy, pen and ink is just so
Even that you do pen and ink on the fly, of course.
Unforgiving.
But you know what you're doing, and you know how to correct your mistakes too. When you,
Not with pen and ink. There's no correcting. That's ink on paper.
Right.
There's no
where that
whiting
leg
out.
was going to be is now a boulder behind
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Or just some
Yeah,
lines.
it's just some lines in the background there. But no, I've been critical of the fact that why wasn't Chris Calle invited to the Artemis 1 launch in some? No, I'm seriously. This is a
Well,
complete neglect of an area of art that NASA wants to stand for. And,
Well, I think there's still room to start if anybody has any connections, obviously, I'd like to discuss it with somebody. Actually, when I gave the talk at the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation a few years ago in the NASA Fine Art program, at least 2 astronauts, raised their hands at the Q&A afterward and said, "Why isn't Tom Jones?" I remember, why isn't NASA doing this now? And I remember it might have been Charlie Bolden or somebody else, but I know a couple other astronauts were like, "I had no idea this was going on. I had no idea there was a program like this." And I think in at least in an unofficial way, it would be nice to see that sort of becoming introduced again.
Well, it's the Photoshop and the computer camera that we have in our hands. I mean, I want to throw my 35 millimeter equipment in the ocean because the camera I carry around, is in my phone, and I'm using it most every day for something. And I get out the big equipment and I'm going, oh God, I should have just took a snapshot on there. But of course,
I'm ready. I would love to have been able to sketch
we will
the
work
Boeing
on
astronauts,
that. Not that we have any influence, but there's a lot of people that we do know that we need to have out there. But the people we know are the legacy people here that can influence the new generation.
And my approach would be, I'm not. If I would love to cover, the suiting up, let's say, or the preparations for a launch. I don't want anything. I just want the access.
Yeah.
I don't want anything, and they would get these, great, artistic representations out of it. I think the problem is, we don't have a budget for this. We don't have a budget for that. But maybe if somebody comes along like me saying, you don't need a budget for this. You just need to give me a badge. I just need access, and I've got this legacy behind me.
Well, we're gonna. It's a different perspective when you see the history of our Apollo program put through Paul Calle's eyes, and then the shuttle era through your eyes there, Chris. Well, of course, one of your dad's most famous sketches we made a T-shirt out of. Neil Armstrong there. Again, it was a quick sketch that turned into this. But this was represented in a very good movie, The First Man, that Ryan Gosling starred in as Neil Armstrong, and they showed the suit room. And that was kind of special for you, wasn't it?
They did. Well, it's a long story.
I've looked at it. I've gone back and watched the movie and
so
seen
have I.
on there.
Long story short, yes, I play my father during the suiting up room, sketching the Apollo 11 astronauts, sketching Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, it's a much longer story, for another time.
But the props were not just regular props.
That's true. I used the exact same sketchbook my dad used in 1969.
That is so
the
cool.
The pens he used in 1969.
Oh man.
And what else? It's the sketchbook and the pens.
Yeah.
And he would do these drawings, and they weren't rapidograph pens. They weren't the dip ones. They were the ones that had the cartridge ink pens.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
not pencil, your ink.
Ink, yeah.
Whew.
And they would clog. And my dad, you'd see on some of the sketches in the corners, he'd have these lines because he was just trying to get the flow back to the ink.
Yeah.
And I used one of the same pens, and the same thing happened on set.
Is it?
And I remember telling Damien Chazelle early on that Dad had problems with blah blah blah. And when they took a break for one point, I ran into and found a sink and was cleaning it out and everything, and had the same problem. So.
Well, go watch First Man. It was out in movie theaters. It did fairly well. I think it talks about the families. A lot of you space geeks are super critical of this and that and the other. And I'm just going, stop. Okay, this was about the families and Neil Armstrong's wife and the fact that they were so doggone busy. Neil's packing his bags to go on the night of July 15th to fly to Houston or whatever at 11 o'clock at night, and the wife says, you're not going to say goodbye to your sons? Get your ass in there and say goodbye to your sons. You're going to the moon. We don't know if we're ever going to see you again. Yeah. And Neil's like, oh yeah, I guess so. Got other things on my mind. Who played the wife in there? She was
Claire Foy.
Claire Foy, yeah. She was really good.
She played Queen Elizabeth in The Crown.
Yeah. And she was the woman with the tattoo.
Yeah, the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Yeah.
She was terrific. The movie was just a different perspective, not what a lot of people expected from Neil Armstrong. It was, at the core, it's a movie about a normal person who did an extraordinary thing.
Yeah. but he wasn't so normal because he saw 4 of his X-15 pilots killed. He saw his best friend Ed White killed. And here he had this great responsibility on there, and there's the background of he had a daughter who had cancer, and that was part of his makeup, you know. But God bless Neil Armstrong, and
I think the movie's gonna. I think it will stand the test of time.
yeah, I do too. It's to me, I tell people it's like a Hallmark movie of this, and I've seen a few Hallmark movies, and it's it's very engaging. First Man, and Ryan Gosling did a great job in it, and
I think the breakfast scene, that sketching in that breakfast scene, I think some of the best sketching I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh really? Oh okay, all right, okay. And do you have your SAG card with you here?
I don't, because I didn't have any speaking part.
Oh really?
It was all just.
Okay.
It was this. This was the sound. No, that's what it was.
By the way, if you're wondering what he's wearing there, he's got an embroidery of his dad's Power to Go
Power to
on
Go
there.
patch.
That looks pretty cool there. Love that. Well, we're ending our conversation here with some artwork of Chris. I got to first say that when I become involved with this museum and walked in our Gemini gallery and saw Gus Grissom's flight suit there, I was immediately drawn to this piece of artwork there that's the Gemini 7 spacesuit. And way before I even know who did that or even knew you, that caught my attention as some good piece of artwork there.
He did a lot of pencil drawings during Gemini. This one, I think, was actually on a gesso board, where it's more of a textured piece as opposed to pencil on paper. But he did a whole series that Jim Dean and the people at NASA called it Paul Calle's Gemini Sketchbook, because it was a whole series of about 18 or 20 big 20 by 30 drawings of different aspects of the Gemini program.
Well, we're going to see 5 kind of representative pieces of artwork of yours here. Tom and Mark Usiak are watching, but not together. Marky's down here, going to be photographer for the Scholarship Foundation.
He is.
And help out with that. And Tom is
and my official photographer.
Yeah, that's right. You're official photographer. That's right. And Tommy's watching the grandkids probably in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Daniel DeYoung, thank you for joining.
Where is he? Is he in Ukraine or is he coming down here?
Well, Daniel lives in the Detroit area,
right,
actually.
But I saw on Facebook he's posting some photos that look like he's back in Ukraine.
Good. No, he was. His wife's from Ukraine, and he did an excellent program here not too long ago.
Yeah, right after Shuttle Fest.
That we enjoyed it. Yes, enjoyed you a lot, Daniel. He's a pilot for Spirit Airlines. There, those big bus airplanes. Dave Stangy's watching up there.
Go Blue. Go Blue.
No, we're not in there. Tom Celentano's watching. He's from Connecticut.
Go Blue.
You know Tom Celentano, don't you?
Tom Celentano.
And Steve Jokums is watching. Carlton Calle. Yeah, right.
He wants to change his name.
Gary Gerald, hand me one of them onions over there. You're flying, or you take home. There's what, folks. That is a delicious Vidalia onion harvested by Gary Gerald in Collins, Georgia area there. They are delicious too. Thank you, brothers. Great seeing you and your wife Donnie a couple weeks ago.
Private selection.
And Cliff Watson's watching down in Pomona, Australia. What you having for breakfast this morning for Brecky down there?
Cheers, mate.
That's right. And he sat right there, did a couple times, gave us a story.
Gonna go to the Irish pub after this.
That's right. Neil 1030's watching, and he's a good space geek. I appreciate him keeping me straight like Marty on some of the facts there. Well, you're just not influenced with, you're influenced by all of the space program. And here's the first image we're going to show that quite beautiful. No, that's not a photograph that Jim McDivitt took. That is Ed White's spacewalk. That is the full frame of the thing. Again, a little, I guess he learned it.
Get out of here so you can see it.
Yeah. There you go.
Much more beautiful.
He switched us around there. You can go ahead and sit down. Marty's gotten real stabby there.
Now I can see it.
So yes, part of the artisticness of this is over half the frame is black.
It is just like my dad's. Actually, and that's actually a cropped version, I think. That's what the print that I have
Uh-huh.
looks like, but I think there's about 4 inches of black to the left and 4 inches of black up top.
Well, it's one of your masterpieces. We made a
No.
T-shirt of it that I watch a lot. A lot of uh, the thin blue line
Mhm.
that Nikki Stott and so many astronauts talk about is the only border that matters. And I just love it. And
Thanks.
you can buy this on the Calle Space Art website. And like he said, he's it's a work in progress.
And that's actually on the new main page. I should have taken a screenshot of the main page. It really
Okay.
looks amazing.
Well, we'll be sharing that with them down the line. Then we got to
This
show
is an
your.
interest. Go ahead.
No, I just got Doug Forrest. We talk about Doug being a pencil artist there, but of course, this is all you've done all your
This
life.
was a small little. It had to be small because this actually. I'd always wanted to do a piece. Well, Gene Cernan told me that there's 2 things that he didn't photograph when he was on the moon, and he with his cane he kept like poking me and saying, you got to do this for me, and it was he wanted to. He didn't take a picture of his boot print, and he didn't take a picture of his daughter's initials that he put on the moon.
Tracy, right?
Tracy, yeah. And so eventually I want to do a painting of his boot print with the initials. But this is as close as I've gotten so far. This was actually, I worked on this piece. It was a very small drawing, maybe 4 by 6 inches, for the Bradford Exchange. This was the basis for a coin for the Cook Islands. And I'm not sure. One of the collectibles that they sold was a big solid gold, a solid silver coin with a small piece of Apollo 17 flown Kapton foil. And I have one of those at home. I'll have to send you a picture of it.
Well, it looks like that boot print was just splacked down there, and you see the powdery regolith just flying away from it there. That's gorgeous, and quite a lot of detail there. And we know you love waving the American flag, and I appreciate that, my friend, on there.
That was, I think, the first in the series for the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation. That was another one of those montage 11 by 4, the 11 by 14 print that some people received at the event, but it was a big, probably 28 by 36.
Yeah, and
piece.
you sold quite a few of those at the Scholarship Foundation.
At Shuttle Fest.
Yeah, at Shuttle Fest too in
It's
there.
another montage where, like I said, I combine, photography and painting and drawing.
And this is, I'm not saying you're stuck on this. This is where your creative comes from now, is these montages.
Oh,
and,
yes,
and I anticipate, somewhere down the line you'll move to something else.
Well,
right?
I mean, I'm still doing the montages, but I'm still also just doing paintings. I'm doing a couple really interesting kind of paintings of Apollo stuff, but one I'm doing is a 7-foot long Earthrise, Apollo 8 Earthrise.
All right.
Uh,
Is it like this Earthrise?
It's similar to that, except it is 7 feet long, and it has a Kapton foil from almost all of the lunar missions somewhere embedded, a la Alan Bean. It has hidden in the blackness one of my dad's postage stamps. A friend of mine,
Awesome.
Andre, sent me some lunar meteorite shavings, and I've incorporated that into some of the paint. So it's kind of a combination of paint and I don't know what you would call that, including
Space flown medium
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
So you got an piece of cosmic debris in there. Your Earthrise
Yep.
here by itself
Mhm.
was your first, and then you start putting different backgrounds.
Right.
behind it.
So it's a series. I started the original painting with just a black and kind of purpley blue background. It's called Touched by the Moon. And then I have added different backgrounds digitally, just backgrounds that I find kind of interesting. This is obviously
Mhm.
Starry Night. The one I just completed before I came here, I don't have any images, is I used the Japanese wood block artist Hokusai, the wave that people have probably seen. It's a big wave wood block, and I incorporated that into that too.
All right.
Pretty interesting. Infinite possibilities for Touched by the Moon.
Infinite possibilities when you're looking at his images of this. I just get lost in the lunar regolith, the way you paint it, and the craters, and
this
it's
painting,
it's such a violent place the moon is, and you really show that.
I've seen some people paint it to soft, almost delicate.
Yeah.
And that's how you see some of those photographs, where it looks so soft. And I see it as you do. It's an unforgiving place.
Right.
I can't remember which astronaut. I wrote it down. I've got notes, of things that astronauts have told me. But it was I think he said it was an unforgiving place.
Yeah.
We went there. It was unforgiving.
Magnificent desolation
Yeah.
is what Buzz Aldrin said so appropriately. But
Yeah.
no, it's a very battered world, right down to the micro the images that are on it. So, hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Chris Calle here. Everybody appreciates your comments and so forth today. We'll end with this final image. You can't say more. Let's see here we go. There we go. The final image. There we go. Nothing more American than a boot print on the moon.
I did this.
Since we're the only country that's done it.
I did this a few years ago over like the 4th of July weekend. And I remember the impetus for this was, I think it was the Apollo 8 crew. Didn't some little kid ask, what's the moon made of? And I don't know whether it's Bill Anders or Frank Borman, but they said cheese, American cheese.
There you
Just
go.
reminded me of that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's simple but effective there that we see a way. So thank you for letting us go into your mind a little bit there and share,
anytime.
of course, your dad's legacy.
Anytime.
And we're going to have you on next time. We'll talk more about your stamps outside of space and so forth. It's really fabulous. You are commissioned by people from time to time to do works of art, even astronauts and so forth.
Yeah.
You work on, besides the big moon Earthrise piece, you working on anything else?
I'm working on a couple more montage pieces. There's, I wanted to do a series of each of the moon landings, and there's a couple that I haven't done. I haven't done Apollo 15 completed yet, or Apollo 12, so I'm kind of working on those.
And you're going to get your sketches done for Marty's oil painting. You're going to do a Marty?
Sure, it's going to do a portrait of Marty.
Yeah.
Catching a wave in
Formal-
Ron John shorts.
That'll be the day.
On the moon.
You might get him on his scooter.
There you go.
Okay, going around town down there. But thank you, Marty, for a great job today. And I didn't mention we have Logan Cope in here from Eastern Florida State College as our intern. Marty took helm today because you're such an important guest.
Wow.
We didn't want anything, but Logan's been doing a great job. But Marty didn't
Sure
want to
he
take
has.
any chances
Sure he
there.
has.
So appreciate that. And
Thanks,
good to have
Marty.
Mitch Rothman in here. Okay, that was one of my favorite cigarettes, Rothmans, back in the day. Remember those?
And now it's going to
They
be
were-
your
they were
favorite
European.
coffee choice.
Yeah, my favorite coffee choice.
NASA Man Space Coffee.
And
You
Mitch,
heard it here first.
Mitch, another great person that Calle has brought to us, as well as the UCAC brothers. We're so appreciative to everybody that thinks about the American Space Museum, wanting to support it, wanting Stay Curious to continue, wanting our good outreach to continue, and more importantly, preserving the birth of America's space age right here where it all happened and started in Brevard County. And it's exciting to be here, isn't it?
Absolutely. Always is. Fun and exciting.
I thought you missed a rocket launch yesterday. That was
There'll be another one tomorrow.
Yeah, there'll be another one tomorrow in there. So, Chris, thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Great informative thing. Thank you
Always
for being
fun.
a good friend, and thank you for always saying good things about the American Space Museum.
Only the truth.
Despite what you say about Marty and I, we appreciate you spreading the word, because you certainly have. So, until next time we have you on here, bid you adieu. Great success. I'll be seeing you around the big astronaut gathering. If you're on the Space Coast this weekend, be sure and look around when you're fueling up for gas, because you might see an astronaut getting gas in their rental car, or one standing in line to get their donut at the convenience store there. So it's exciting to be around here.
It is.
This
Space
time
is
there.
hot right now.
It is. So, well, until tomorrow, when we're going to do it all again and talk about a little bit about what's going on in our solar system and some new news going on, like when is that China lunar lander
Oh,
going
yeah.
to
When
land?
is that?
And we'll stay curious. And I'll tell you, till next time, I'm Marquette saying, I can't wait to see you again with this guy to bridge the space between us.